Dear listeners and viewers of this week in interview, welcome. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, we have this week in interview. We spend a wonderful hour together. I get to have conversations with wonderful people, accomplished folks, and I get to share those conversations with you. Such a pleasure to do that. I always say that I'm so fortunate to be the host of this weekend interview because I get to interact with folks who have done so much, they have accomplished so much, and I'm privileged, and I also have the privilege to share those conversations with you. So tonight is no exception. I hope that you are having a wonderful week. On Monday was the United Nations International Day for the Remembrance of Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. And so this is what informs our conversation tonight with my guest, Mr. Lloyd Pascal. And so we will, we always approach things from a different point of view, a different perspective on this week in interview, because I like to say that if you can just, click your mouse or your remote and find what we talk about in the manner in which we talk about it, then there's no need for us. But I like to think that we bring it from a different angle, a different perspective. And so what I want you to do is to go grab your drink. In the meantime, invite somebody to view with you. Tell them that this weekend interview is live, and we have this really passionate and intense conversation that we're about to have about the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back. Welcome back, listeners. Those of you who are back with us every Wednesday, I want to say thank you for tuning in and making this week's interview a part of your weekly schedule. I know there's a lot of stuff that competes for your attention, and when you make the time to spend it with me on a Wednesday night, I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. If tonight is the first time that you listen to this week's interview, a very warm welcome to you. I hope you like us enough that you come back, and eventually you too will be a regular listener, a regular viewer of this weekend interview. On the Nature Island of Dominica, RVR Jams carries this weekend interview live on DG Play Channel 59. Also in the Toronto area, online radio SBE carries this weekend interview live. SBE is a Haitian centered, well, the target market area is mostly a Haitian centered radio, and they carry this weekend interview live. We all um, our hearts go out to the Haitian people and the constant struggle that they are experiencing in trying to, wrestle control of their country away from folks who just want to extract from them. And so, in solidarity with the Haitian people, the common man in Haiti, we wish a breakthrough in that centuries-old struggle. So those of you listening in the Toronto area, I hope your people are safe, and I hope that Haiti can find some peace. Well, justice and peace shortly. Uh, Tonight, however, we are still keeping on the theme of atrocities and how cruel humans can be to one another. On Monday, the 25th of March, every 25th of March has been designated the day of remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic um, slave trade. And there are so many countries with Africans, a number of them in the Caribbean, our homeland Dominica included. I don't know if I missed it, but I did not see any kind of statement or recognition from any of those uh, governments about, just remembering the people who bled and sweated and were brutalized and still came out triumphant and was able to win us some of the best real estate on the globe. We didn't see any commemoration to them, but we want to do our small part. I have a short video um, that is relevant to the topic. I will ask the producer to run it now. When I come back, I'm going to introduce you to my guest, Mr. Lloyd Pascal, who is gracing us with his presence tonight. He has served in many aspects in the Dominican government in the civil service, all the way up to being Minister of Agriculture and the Environment. And so, as soon as we're done playing this video, compliments the Guardian newspaper in the UK, I will formally introduce and welcome Mr. Lloyd Pascal to this weekend interview. But Sam, let's play this video real quick, and we'll be right back.
In the 18th century, British merchants shipped around 3 million people from West Africa across the Atlantic to the Americas and sold them into slavery. They made £4 trillion from the unpaid labour alone. Portugal and Holland pioneered this slave route. Britain made a national fortune from it. Much of the Britain we know today was built with slave money. Ports, cities and canals. Even the Church of England has admitted making money from the slave business. By the 19th century, a fifth of the British elite had made their fortunes from slavery, among them David Cameron's distant cousin, General Sir James Duff. The Liverpool merchants who founded what's now Barclays Bank were slave traders. In 1833, when slavery was abolished, slave owners were paid £20 million in compensation for their loss of property. That's £2 billion today. More than 10 million people died as a direct result of the Atlantic slave trade, but the survivors got nothing. West Africa, nothing. Now 15 Caribbean states, including Jamaica, have launched the first united campaign for reparations from Britain, France and Holland. They have suggested compensation equal to the sum offered to slave owners in the 1830s, £2 billion. They also want an apology, recognition of the historic atrocity.
They hid in caves. My great-grandmother was born in a cave to make sure that she was not born as a slave. And that is what Britain perpetuated.
But the British government has refused to give either. David Cameron's first official visit to Jamaica has amplified calls on Britain to agree to reparations. Some argue that if Britain did pay, it wouldn't be the elite footing the bill, but the tax-paying working classes. Others have said this was 200 years ago, it's in the past, why should I pay now? In Jamaica, slavery was followed with a century of colonialism.
Most of the land is still in the hands of Europeans.
When the Brits left in 1962, 80% of the population were functionally illiterate. Male literacy remains 4 points below the global average. 19% of the country live in poverty. When historic crimes have generational victims, who should pay?
All right. I thought this little video would kind of position us, put it in perspective, because it's nice to say a day of recognition of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. But what does that mean? When you recognize them, what does that mean? You're walking on down the street and you see somebody whipping somebody, putting blows on the person, and you come back and you say, I acknowledge you taking blows, and you continue on your way. Um, are you even helping the situation? There's a lot of questions that surround that. But tonight, although our program, stems from the fact that on Monday was that day put aside to remember our ancestors who fought and were brutalized and were murdered. we want to expand the conversation a little bit more. And so I invited Mr. Lloyd Pascal on. He I describe him as a Pan Africanist. He doesn't object to the term, but he also expressed a little bit of complexity in terms of his interpretation and the use of the term Pan Africanism. We'll get into that in the conversation, but in the meantime, I've kept him waiting long enough. Um, Mr. Pascal Lloyd, it's really an honor and a pleasure to have you as my guest on this week in interview. I know of your work because I worked in Dominica while you were, um, involved in some of your higher level positions in the government of Dominica and also as a professional working in Dominica. And so thank you for your service. I understand that you've since retired from active and full-time work, but all the same, I'm sure you're still engaged. And so it's a pleasure to have you, and I really look forward to our conversation tonight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drago. Good evening, and thanks a lot for inviting me to your program. I hope I will make it without any big difficulties in terms of, you know, being a first time.
A man of your experience and caliber, we're going to sail through, man.
Yeah, well, I am pleased to be asked to do this program with you. I think the topic is very relevant, and I will try my best. I do not proclaim to be an expertise in this field, but that is the life that I have lived. I have recognized my blackness from a very long time when I was a child, and um, you know, it's okay that there you will find other people maybe be able to articulate better than me or speak better than me, but I will try to give it my best shot tonight with you.
I'm sure that you at the end of the conversation, we will all agree that the choice was a perfect choice. Let's tell the audience a little bit about you. A little background, let them know who the man is, Mr. Lloyd Pascal.
Okay, well, I was born in Buetica on the southeast end of Dominica, that is between Delis and La Plaine, the main villages. So, Delis heading to Point Milat and Petit Savan and Granby, but I'm from Buetica. I went to
Right.
school in Buetica. I had an occasion during one year, 1968, the school year of 1968 to 1969, where I went to school in Saint-Sauveur, at the Saint-Sauveur Government School, primary school. After that, I moved to the St. Mary's Academy in 1971. And from there, I completed my high school in 1976, and 1976 was an interesting year in that this was the year that the government of Dominica Labour Party had proclaimed that they wished to take Dominica to independence, and you had the Declaration of Independence, the Salisbury Declaration. And based upon that, because of all what was happening in Dominica during my high school years, I was very much involved in the independence movement, support for independence, for political independence. And subsequently, I was there, I worked in the forestry division from 1977. And in 1979, after the hurricane hit Dominica, that is
David.
Hurricane David,
Mm-hmm.
I went to study in Cuba, but even during that 1979, it was a turbulent year for Dominica. And then we had the fall of the government of Patrick John. He had just obtained or taken Dominica to independence in November of 1978. And by 1979, he was already in problems. And so he was not even in a position to commemorate or celebrate the first anniversary of independence of Dominica. So we had the fall of Patrick John, an interim government established through a Committee for National Salvation. During that time, I served on the Dominica National Youth Council, and therefore, when there was a committee of 22 members coming from 11 national organizations, and the organization that I was part of, the National Youth Council, was also there. And each of those national organizations had to submit two names to serve on that committee. And I represented the National Youth Council together with the Honorable Pierre Charles, deceased. And therefore, so not long after the hurricane in November, after the hurricane, Dominica obtained some assistance from the non-aligned movement that was having a summit in Havana. And among the pledge for support was scholarships for young Dominicans to pursue higher education in the Republic of Cuba. And so I was one of 11 Dominican youth who went to Cuba, who accepted scholarships and to pursue higher education. I did a degree in forest engineering in Cuba, and then returned to Dominica in 1985. 1985, it was I got back to Dominica just after Mary Eugenia Charles had won her second term as prime minister. And then, I stayed there. It was very difficult, at the time when we returned to Dominica, the politics and geopolitics and the anti-Cuban, anti-left and so on was so high in Dominica that I had a difficult time. It took me 7 years walking the streets of Dominica, both the streets of Roseau and in Buetica and the Heights and so on, looking for a job in the forestry that I had.
Wow.
I had worked in forestry before going to Cuba, but I was a non-established daily paid worker according to the category they had it. So I was not appointed in the government service. And because of that, on my return from studying forestry in Cuba, there was no work for me like some of the other colleagues who were established in their positions. And so I just wanted to repeat that it took me 7 years from 1985 until 1992 before I found a job in the forestry region.
Wow.
So many people think, well, I remember when I was working in the environmental coordinating unit, people were telling me, boy, I wish I had a job like you, bring me with me, put you in, because I traveled quite a lot. I traveled around the world several times. But people don't know what I've been through. 7 years is a lifetime to stay in looking for a job. I taught at the Wesley High School, Spanish and French because I just couldn't find a job in the forestry. Eugenia Charles
in Dominica, that's all forest, pretty
all
much.
forest. And the prime minister proclaimed at that time that she would not employ Cuban graduates because she did not want us to come back and overthrow her government. And so, the label of being a terrorist, having studied in Cuba, was something that we had to carry, and we had to behave ourselves in such a way not to look for any trouble in the society, because we already know that things are not favorable. And one of the things I can say is that the 10 of us returned in the first year, and then one other member of the group, to make it 11, had to stay off one additional year because he did medicine. And none of us got ourselves in trouble. Everybody were very well-behaved professionals and so on. And I want to commend and commemorate, just as we remember the victims of slavery on this day, on this occasion. The gentleman who went to Cuba together with me and completed our studies and returned with our degrees, we've done well. We've done very well in terms of behaving ourselves in the way that the society wanted us, not to take up arms and overthrow any government, not to do any kind of revolution. But that doesn't mean that ideology and the way you think and so on change. You just have to behave yourself in a way that you don't look for trouble for your parents and your friends and so on.
Right.
But that's me. After that, I worked I worked in the forestry, and then I went to Germany to study environmental management. There was a course in the city of, on the University of Dresden. I did a course in environmental management, and I returned, and things were changing in Dominica, and I moved from forestry to environment. And but before going to environment, I contested the 19, no, what it was, 2000. It
2000.
was
Hmm.
2000 elections. I was a candidate for La Plaine.
For La Plaine, okay.
So I didn't win. I was beaten by Ron Green, who, but fortunately there was an arrangement done that the Labour Party entered into a coalition with the Freedom Party, and we formed a coalition government for the first time in Dominica. So the same Freedom Party people that felt we were not worthy of getting employment and so on, we still forgave them and entered into an arrangement with them to work with them so that for the betterment of Dominica.
All is fair in love and politics, huh?
Yeah, that's right. So that is it. So then, I worked with the environmental coordinating unit after that, because it was not a long stint as minister.
Hmm.
We had economic problems, big problems in terms of the finances of the country, and we had a kind of stabilization program that we had to find more ways for them to run the country. Things were bad, and I remember the CARICOM at one time had a conference just on Dominica where countries came forward to pledge assistance to give monies to Dominica so that we could get out of the hole that we were in. And then the IMF maybe had recommended that the government would have to cut down on its payroll for it to be able to manage and balance its budget and so on. And when the government made the announcement that that was the next thing that had to happen, the union at that time, the Civil Service Association, or at least the Public Service Union, said that they were willing to participate, providing that the government leads by example. And leading by example would mean that the government would have to cut down from the number of ministers and the advisors and so on. And it so happened that the people who were appointed, the senators who were appointed ministers who did not win their seats were the first to go. So myself and Dr. John Toussaint and some of the people who were serving as advisors had to relinquish that kind of position and accept that for the sake of Dominica, let us just do what is required for the benefit of Dominica. So those are, maybe you can say those are consequences, or you can say that these are sacrifices that people made. But then, after that I got, because of, I went into politics, but I had a skill, a profession. I was, and I had always kept that at the back of my mind, that when we started the movement for New Dominica and the popular independence committees and so on, we were assisted very ably by quite a number of Dominicans who had graduated from universities in North America and returned home. And it was a pleasure to listen to these guys speak and express themselves, and articulate and powerful orators and so on. But you felt inadequate in some way of being among these men, and you just have to listen to them because they speak so well, they know the issues so well. So I thought all that time that I had to get myself an education so that I could put myself on par with them. And it was nice to get free education from Cuba, because everybody else would have to pay for the education if you didn't get a government scholarship. Yeah, so yeah.
There's some parallel in our experiences, because I was a beneficiary of a scholarship from the government as well after A-level college. It was right after the American invasion of Grenada, and so there was a program where they were giving scholarships, and based on my A-level results, I got one of the scholarships. I was lucky to go to school, to university, without having to do. We still had to take a little loan, because the scholarship covered tuition, didn't cover travel, and so we had to take a loan at the aid bank to buy the ticket for me to go to school in the US and that sort of thing. Similar experience, but coming back home and coming back home to serve. So I see you wearing your colors. We always associate the red and the yellow and the green with Africanism, and that is what we are talking about. One of the things that we're talking about tonight is, to really, I know an hour can never do that justice, but if all that constraint that we have to sort of give our perspective of where we see um, all African people are today, and is there hope, and if there's hope, in what direction or from what direction does that hope come from? I'm deliberately keeping it wide open in my question because I want to allow you to total freedom to express your perspective and from what angle you think about it when you see what's happening to our folks all over in Africa and out of Africa, and predominantly black areas like the Caribbean, in the areas where we are in the minority, as in the United States and so on. What package that?
Yeah. Well, if you would allow me, I would just want to mention before going into that question that I wanted to recognize the efforts of Ambassador Crispin Gregoire.
Okay.
Ambassador Crispin
He's,
Gregoire.
he's, he's a friend of he's a friend of this weekend interview. He's been on here multiple times, so
Right.
yeah,
So
I have no problem with that. Yeah.
the fact that I am here to commemorate this important anniversary, this important day of remembrance of the victims, I want to recognize that the founding chairman of that thing in 2007 at the United Nations, when the United Nations started that thing to recognize, it was Ambassador Crispin Gregoire that was the chairman, our own Dominican man at the United Nations, was chair of that. And he served there until when his term ended or he was removed or something. But we need to know that, there are some Dominicans who have made us proud. And while we remember the victims, we have to remember people who have worked diligently and well on our behalf.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to say a little thing again about Ambassador Gregoire, because I knew him way back when I knew him at the in the yard of the St. Mary's Academy. The riot, he was in a higher class than me, but that does not mean, I came late. I am a late comer when it came to school.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing about that was his brother, Leroy Gregoire, was violated. In fact, his brother was kicked by a Christian brother at the St. Mary's Academy. You will remember in 1972, the demonstration that was led by the Student Council of the St. Mary's Academy to march to government headquarters, that resulted in the closing of the school. And the school was reopened when they brought in Father Felix and black teachers and so on. That was the end of the rule of the white Christian brothers at the St. Mary's Academy. So, Brother Crispin Gregoire is featuring there for his brother. But after that, he went to the United States of America to university, and he was very instrumental, very important in the establishment of the Library and Work Study Committees in Granby. That is the first time in the history of Dominica that the young people had organized themselves so well in terms of support for independence. And there were several, maybe 30 young youth groups inside Granby. And Crispin was very instrumental in establishing them, working with Pierre Charles, working with all of the brothers. And he also established the collection of books to feed 2 libraries that were in Granby at that time. I was very much associated with that Library and Work Study Committee. I participated. I was part of the Pilier Youth Group. I know Pierre Charles was president or head of the Lechelle Youth Group. And so Crispin did played his part all that time until when Pierrot became prime minister and Pierrot appointed him ambassador when he got this a very important session. He was also the co-founder of the UN um, memorial, permanent memorial that was established at the United
Yes,
Nations
definitely.
for the victims of slavery. And I know, Crispin was very instrumental in getting the Midnight Groovers to play at the United Nations. I mean, so much for Crispin. I mean, I think I can always give
I
him
love
some.
that. No. I love that. I love that we recognizing him and giving him some flowers and some love.
Yeah,
You
man,
know,
that's
well,
why
yeah,
that's a comrade from way back, and it's important that there's still a struggle, and both of us are still there, and so on, and there's work to be done, but it needs to be recognized. But apart from that, what needs to be done? What is being done? Well, well, the diaspora, the African diaspora, where it is now, based upon what is going on in Haiti, the rest of the world of the Caribbean is a little behind in terms of our own leadership, where they are taking us to. We can remember that in 2013, the CARICOM, as an organization, took a decision to pursue reparations from Europe, but mainly CARICOM is like an English speaking kind of Commonwealth kind of grouping, except with the presence of Haiti, which is full member of CARICOM. And therefore, the emphasis of that reparations is really to pursue from Britain, although France is part of it and the rest of European that participated in the slave trade and so on. The question of reparatory justice is something that is foremost, but I will tell you, I have been part of the reparations committee in Dominica, and to tell you the truth, there's nothing to be proud of the kind of work that is doing to educate people and so on. We're not doing enough.
mm-hmm.
So much that what is going on in the Caribbean is that Haiti is the focal point of where we are and where we should be going. The situation in Haiti is that for so many years, that foreign domination, even after they had this victory over French colonialism and slavery with the proclamation of independence of 1804, January 1804. That means to say they started that thing in August of 1791, and they under the leadership of Toussaint Louverture, they went on. The French tricked Toussaint. They told him they wanted to have a meeting, invited him to a ship, took him to Paris and so on, and had him. He died there. But the person who really led the revolution to victory is Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
Dessalines,
Not
yeah.
many,
Mm-hmm.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And not many of our people know when we're talking about the Haitian Revolution, we talk about Toussaint Louverture, because that is what the Europeans wanted us to talk about. But anyway, what we are saying is that after all what happened in 1804 and their independence, they were very severely punished by French colonialism. For them to be recognized by the rest of the world, they had to pay an enormous amount of money. And then their friends came from the United States of America and said, well, we can help you to come out, we'll give you a loan and so on. And that from that time, for Haiti to be recognized, the government of Haiti had to pay the monies that they were asking for. Was it 50 million at that time, or 150 million?
Yeah, it's a big part of and that kept them poor. And not only that, the United States actually occupied Haiti for decades, the military occupation of Haiti.
And that is what that has caused Haiti from since that time, and particularly in 1912, 1914, the occupation of Haiti by the United States of America has put Haiti back as a colony of the United States. They've tried almost like what Puerto Rico is to the United States of America.
And what Cuba would be if it wasn't for
And
the
what
revolution
Cuba
of
would be
Castro,
had it not been for
for
that
Fidel Castro.
heroic
Hmm.
victory of Fidel Castro. So Haiti is in problem, and but the problem has reached a stage where it cannot continue anymore, and therefore the people of Haiti are in the streets doing all kinds of unimaginary things for them to get out of foreign domination.
Hmm.
There is there's an attempt that was made in 2004 when Jean-Baptiste Aristide, after winning elections for the second time, was removed. Some Marines visited his home in the night. They told him, "Get ready and let us go because we are going." And they took him to the airport. They put him on a plane, flew him across the Atlantic Ocean, and deposited him in the Central African Republic. And then the United Nations established a MINUSTA mission of stabilization for Haiti. And they established a core group comprising of the United States of America, France, Canada, the United Nations, the OAS, the ambassador of Spain, Brazil, Germany, and they call this thing the core group. And since that time, the core group has been ruling Haiti, putting governments in office that are not worthy, drug dealers and all those things. So what is happening in the streets of Haiti today is as a result of everything that
Of
is
all of that.
happening.
Hmm.
So no, I want to cut this thing short because it will go forever.
Hmm.
But Haiti is the thing that we have to keep our eyes on. It is our brothers and sisters, our cousins. We came from the same area out of Africa, West Africa. It's just that the boats dropped us at different
A
destinations
different
on the
destination.
islands.
Hmm.
And what is happening to them is that they are fighting for their own survival. And that survival will depend on whether we ourselves survive. If Haiti does not survive, there is no way that the rest of us, Black people in the Caribbean, can survive. And therefore, we have to pay attention, solidarity. I mean, it is difficult what is going on there. But so, what next that needs to be done? After we have understood very well what is going on in Haiti, we need to understand also that, well, things in terms of African thing that we have been designated as the sixth region of the African Union. The African
Hmm.
Union is the continent of Africa, which is 5 regions, and the sixth region is the African diaspora.
Diaspora.
That is in the Caribbean and the United States of America, in South America, in Central America. Although, apart from Brazil, you will not even believe that there are Black people living in Central America. But if you go there, if you look at the football teams of these countries, you will see that they are predominantly Black. But when you go to attend the kind of meetings I used to attend on the United Nations, there are no Black people in any of those delegations. And so this is the situation that is facing us now, that the United Nations designated 2015 to 2024 as the International Decade for Peoples of African Descent.
So this year is the last year of that decade.
Imagine this is the last year of that decade, and neither the United Nations, nor CARICOM, nor anybody has done any kind of activity to commemorate that day. So we are slowly, time is passing, and we are going to the point where the decade will finish. Maybe they will announce another decade because for them
This
it's a
one, this
nice
one,
thing to do.
this one we defaulted. You know, when they declared the decade of people of African descent, they encouraged nations to have things at the national level that would focus on recognition of the contributions of African people to the development of humanity, justice for African people, the development of Africa and societies where African people live, and also to implement programs that focus attention on um, aggravated discrimination, multiple and aggravated discrimination. Um, and but it, it's not even on our agenda as Black people. It's not on the agenda of the United Nations, who declared that decade. It's a reflection of the lack of respect, to use their word, um, that Black people enjoy on the globe. The lack of
Yeah,
respect.
you know that every year the United Nations has a General Assembly, and every year leaders of the world go to the United Nations to make pronouncements about how great they are and how good they are and pretend. But the years have passed. Let us say we are in the 10th year of that. And for us, we should not allow this decade to finish without we put our stamp of our feet on the ground and say, what is it that we want as Black people, as descendants of enslaved Africans, as the African diaspora? And, many people have been making suggestions, and I came to the one of the people that I have been following is a gentleman by the name of Ambassador Prince Michael. I started following him when he was in the United States, but subsequently he has moved to Kenya. He's pursuing some studies there and doing some work there in Mount Kenya. And he is promoting an idea that because of all what is happening in this world today, we just saw what happened with the coming in of COVID and the kinds of lockdown, the kind of restriction, the kind of things that people had to go through. It was like a dry run on how to control nations, how to control people, how to ensure that their own agenda, the people of the World Economic Forum, the people of even the United Nations, the people of the World Health Organization, they have a plan for them to control us in many ways. And the time has come for Black people to wake up. The proposal from Ambassador Michael is that we should establish ourselves as a new nation.
Mhm.
And the fact that the African diaspora is such a large group of people, in the United States of America, in Canada, all the countries of Central America and South America and the Caribbean, you have, together with the 54 states of Africa, you have 80 countries that can stand up in the United Nations and stamp and say that we are no longer prepared to continue with this kind of thing. Just an observance of a decade of observing people of African descent is not enough. We heard way back in Durban in 2001, it was, that they had a conference that said that slavery was an act of genocide and something, what they call it, against humanity.
Crimes against humanity.
Crime against humanity. And therefore, there are other crimes that are being prepared and planned for our people. And we have to find a way for us to have our own nation, our own nationality. And therefore, establishment of the African diaspora as a but I don't want to say force for people to think it's just war, but the thing is that the Black people need to organize themselves. And I'm saying that on your program tonight. I don't know how many people have said that to you before, but that is something that we need to pay attention to. How is it that we get out? We don't just depend on what England tell us and what the United States of America tell us and what Europe is telling us. We have to look at what is happening also in West Africa, just in West Africa. In Senegal, we just had a general elections in Senegal that happened. It was on Sunday. The results of the election was that a gentleman a young guy,
Young guy.
44 years, by the name of Basiru Diomeya Faye, won that election. But before he had won that election, he had already made pronouncements right at the time when Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso were breaking ties with French colonialism and establishing their independence. He in Senegal at the time was an opposition. He was making this pronouncement that we must end that kind of arrangement and that kind of relationship with France. He was imprisoned. The elections in Senegal was supposed to be on the 25th of February. The president at that time, Mr. Macky Sall, decided to postpone the elections until December. And protests started in the streets of Dakar in Senegal to the point where this gentleman, Diomaye Faye, was in prison and he was released in prison 10 days before the election. And he came and overwhelmingly won that
One year.
election.
People
He
are ready
won.
for change. People are ready for change.
That is
But
what
so does that give you hope? Is that like a small beacon in the dark that Africa, there's hope for Africa?
what is happening in Africa and what will be happening in Haiti, because it's still early, is giving a lot of hope that we have to ourselves be ready, because otherwise we can find ourselves crushed if we do give the kind of prepare ourselves and give the kind of support that we need to do, put our minds in the right position and get ourselves organized. And the thing is, we are so caught up. I mean, the calendar of the year is so filled with holidays of the Roman Catholic
Distractions,
Church.
distractions.
Imagine right now we are in the Holy Week and we are working towards Good Friday and Resurrection on Saturday. Well, that's okay. I mean, it's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. Even if I don't really observe those things, but I don't going to give anybody any kind of word about what they're doing is wrong. But it's just that so much of our attention is put on this kind of holidays, and we don't commemorate the birthdays of people like Martin Luther King, the birthdays of Marcus Garvey, Rosie Douglas, and these people. We don't commemorate and remember any of these people who have fought for us as Black people, because we spend our time. One time it is Christmas, another time it is Boxing Day, another time it is Good
Yeah.
Friday, and
Uh,
the whole year, and then Pentecost, then we go.
keep us distracted. And when we're not thinking of the next fete, we're working. Um, talking about that, it's a project that I would like to see happen. That we celebrate veterans that fought in the European wars, World War One, World War Two. They call it a World War, but it was European wars. But we have nothing on our national agenda that recognizes our freedom fighters, our Maroons, Bala and Jacko and these people. Um, we have a monument that is finally erected in Roseau. But we should have a day where maybe we don't use poppies, maybe we use hibiscus, maybe we use some other kind of lysidra, but something that brings attention to our young people that this is not the only war. Our people had to go to war against the slave masters and slave owners to fight for our freedom. And Dr. Thompson Fontaine has a book, The Maroons of Dominica, where that gives a lot of information. To me, that should be standard reading for anybody in the region, especially Dominica, so you can learn about um, those heroes that fought and terrorized. Just like in Haiti, you talk about Dessalines. What Dessalines did was terrorize the Europeans to force them out. And that is what our Maroon and chiefs and our freedom fighters did for us. They forced them out. And we have to start to have movement that recognizes the importance of those people. Because if the rest of the world is ignoring us, we cannot join them and ignore ourselves. But I want to ask you, in that whole, like you talk about what's going on in Haiti, and I don't live in Dominica right now, uh, but from the outside, it's looking like the Caribbean, especially the OECS, seems to have a bunch of leaders who want to take us back into colonialism. I mean, by definition of colonialism, I mean the resources of the country being used for the benefit of people who are not citizens of the country. What is your take on that in the context of what we're talking about and our history, where we see our leaders cutting deals with everybody else, and millionaires seem to be made by other people while our folks are struggling to feed their families, and they have to be looking for social programs to get by. What's your take on that?
Well, I am very disappointed in the crop of leaders, the leadership of Caribbean at this time. They go to the United Nations and they make deals. I mean, just that year that just passed, the 2023, CARICOM has been hosting all kinds of people, particularly when it comes to the issue of Haiti. I mean, they went to the Bahamas and they had the Prime Minister of Canada, and we know the interests of Canada in Haiti. They are like, it is a trio of France, Canada, and the United States of America. Everybody else come after that have their interests in the mines in Haiti, in the petroleum in Haiti, in controlling the people, in ensuring that the gangs are well supplied with the arms that they need to keep the streets busy and so on. And here is CARICOM having that kind of secret meeting, and these people who used to be sending their troops to invade Haiti before find that they are too embarrassed to do that, and they are getting the CARICOM leaders to do the bidding for them. And you have, I mean, when you look at violence in the Caribbean, we cannot claim that Haiti has more violence than Jamaica. Yet still the Prime Minister of Jamaica is very busy pledging how many soldiers he's going to send to keep peace in Haiti, whereas his
On the
country,
streets of
Jamaica, has
Jamaica, it's a lot of
more
crime.
killings and so on, and nobody is talking about putting troops there to keep the peace. And what we have seen with CARICOM, I mean, compared to the kind of CARICOM that we had in the 60s, when after 1960, when United Nations passed a resolution 1514 that dealt with the establishment, well, the granting of political independence to colonial peoples and nations. We had people like, Michael, no, it was not Michael Manley, it was his father,
Norman
Raymond Manley.
Norman Manley, Forbes
You had
Burnham.
Forbes Burnham, you had
Yeah.
people on all of these
Who was
Caribbean
in
countries.
Barbados? Was it Warrell? Who was in Barbados at the time? I don't remember. Who was in Barbados?
Um, Errol Barrow was there.
Errol
I don't know if
Barrow.
he
Yeah,
was.
Errol Barrow.
And then these people
Yeah.
were so strong. Some of the things that they did is that when the United States of America attempted to expel Cuba from the Organization of American States, these four countries that obtained independence from the Caribbean, that is Guyana,
Yeah.
Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Jamaica,
Jamaica.
they refused to follow. I mean, they were strong enough that they said that Cuba is a member of our Caribbean community, even if they speak a different language from us. And today, what we find is that the leaders of CARICOM are aiding and abetting the same colonial people to continue to keep Haiti as a little child. And this is the gross disrespect of Haiti. Because when the first organization, international organization of we'll call it different countries, the League of Nations, when it was established in 1920, Haiti was a founding member of the League of Nations. When the League of Nations ceased to exist in 1946, when they established the United Nations organization in 1945, Haiti was a founding member. And today we have little CARICOM want to be calling the shots and saying that you must put a council of a presidential council, and they give all how many, about 10 reasons of different people that should not be on that committee. And I find that CARICOM has gone too far in enabling the people who have always perpetuated that kind of oppression against Haiti, so that our own Black brothers who are leading the Caribbean are helping white Europeans to conquer and colonize and invade Haiti again. And that is something that I think the whole Caribbean should stand up against these leaders and throw them out.
Yeah, and it's not only in Haiti. If you look at countries in Antigua and Dominica and those places, you have them actively giving land to people from outside of the region, the best lands, giving them access to the resources. It's as if we're being recolonized um, by invitation, you know. So yes, it's not just to say we need to go and help Haiti. Is that we ourselves, right under our feet, the land is being taken away and being sold, and sometimes we're not even getting compensation for it.
You
You
know,
know.
I'll tell you something. You see this thing you mentioned there, the land? The land, you know, I myself, it's when I tell you that I am no longer commemorating this Catholic thing there, I myself, I put myself more into an understanding, a better understanding of African spirituality. So I understand that when it comes to creator, the God and so on, is where we live with nature, and it is divided into four. So we have the earth with the land, we have the air, we have fire, and we have water.
Hmm.
And you know, all of this thing is a combination of everything. We live with trees on the earth that provide us with food, but they also provide us with oxygen.
Oxygen.
And we have an exchange, a balance of exchange between carbon dioxide and oxygen. That when we use that oxygen to breathe in and to use the oxygen to transport blood into our brains and every different parts of our body, after the machine has worked, it gives out the carbon dioxide, and that is exactly what the plant needs so that it can produce food for us and so on, and even produce water and oxygen. So we in Dominica, for some good reason, somebody who wrote the coat of arms of Dominica say, "Après bon Dieu, c'est la terre,"
After God is the earth. Hmm.
is the earth, and we can also translate it to say, "After God is the land."
Is the land. Hmm.
Is the same la terre.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So the thing is, we are now, after all of those years of slavery and pretending to be independent and so on, we have not done enough for us to pay attention to the land that provides us with food, a place to build our houses, with water,
With
with
oxygen.
all of the
Hmm.
beauty that we have there. And now every foreigner is coming and they are finding that the land is so beautiful and they have more money and they have more resources and they are being aided and abetted by the people who have come to us and asked us to vote for them so that they can take care of us. And they are there making every effort to take that land and give it to people away to outside. They take people away from their own lands. They do something in Dominica they call land acquisition. They break every aspect of the constitution of Dominica and the laws of land acquisition. And there is nobody, no organization standing. I mean, except the people of Wesley that are trying to see if they can get their monies for land that was taken from them 4 years ago. There is nothing in Dominica that is happening with our lawyers, with our institutions to ensure that we put a stop into that kind of thing. And it is
And
very much
and
lamentable.
there's a law on the books. There's a law on the books that was passed by E.O. Leblanc that restricts the amount of land that can be purchased by a non-citizen.
The
And
Alien
every day,
Landholding Act was
yeah,
there, and
and
this
it's
thing
just
it
being
no longer
ignored.
exists.
It's on the books, but it's just being
It's there, but
ignored.
it's not being applied.
Yeah,
It's not being used, and it's a pity.
you know. You, so can we leave on a positive? Because we started talking about the movement that's happening on the continent with Niger and Burkina Faso and Senegal of late and so on. Can we leave not being optimistic for the sake of optimism, but if we see it as a glimmer, how do people who are conscious and who want to see the it bend in a different direction? I guess what do we have to do? Continue to educate, continue to talk. What is it that we can do?
Yeah. I think I want to take this opportunity to commend you for taking this difficult task because our people are very much distracted by good times. You know, you see people going to be fasting on Good Friday, but when you see Easter Sunday come, they're going to eat everything that is in front of them and dance and music and drinking rum and laugh and so on. And therefore, um, we have to do this kind of work that you are doing a lot more. I mean, I cannot ask you to do more. I'm telling you, I'm commending you for what you are doing. More people have to
You
do.
can ask me to do more because there's more to be
Yeah,
done.
but more needs to be done.
Yeah.
So on that line, but we have to try to organize. For example, we have to try to organize our people in the diaspora because we will need their help. We will need help for us to organize young people into food production brigades where people have all the necessary tools and implements for agriculture that is required. You know, if you go and buy a fork to till the land in Dominica, it's a lot of money that the young people don't have and so on. And we will need to organize, just as we need to organize on the ground here in Dominica for us to start to produce so that this rainy season that is going to come May, June, because usually these years the hurricane season starts in the middle of May. It's no longer June, but it starts in May. And so right now, effort should be made to start land preparation so that we can be ready to plant for the first rains because our agriculture is generally rain-fed
Rain
agriculture. We
fed,
don't
yeah.
have that kind of thing. If you plant
Artificial,
in
yeah.
dashing, you'll not go and look for irrigation and for run thing, drip irrigation for you to give your dashing. You wait for the rains. And therefore, we should be preparing ourselves now to organize these brigades. It's not a very difficult thing. You just have to get it going. But there will be need for maybe our diaspora people to put some assistance in hand so that people can organize themselves in every village, in every community where you can start producing short-term crops, vegetables that will be ready in 2 months. I mean, I remember after the hurricane, we had a sweet potato that came from, I don't know, I think it came from Martinique or Guadeloupe and so on. They called it Patata Alliance. And Patata Alliance was 6 weeks. 6 weeks after planting it, you could reap that potato. And so we have to really find ways for us to do the short-term crops and then move into the longer-term crops. But otherwise, we will be in trouble because the people who want to control us and control the world and control their resources, they will control our food also. And most of the food that they are giving us are genetically modified. I'm not even talking about the kind of medications that they want to give us, the kind of way that they want to prick us on our shoulder, on our arm, so that they can give us this thing there. So if we do not take those kind of things in our hands now, I mean, the young generation that is coming there is doomed to perish. And we cannot allow that. Those of us who have lived a life of that kind of thing, of being proud of our blackness and so
Producing
on,
our own food and all of
producing
that.
our own food and so on. We cannot allow ourselves to be fed by imported foods in the supermarket that are all, I mean, all the oils that you will find in the supermarkets are, when they tell you vegetable oils, they are genetically modified. So we can do those things. It's not difficult, but somebody has to do it. I have always called upon people that I meet, let us get it done. It is something that I am telling you, if our elected representatives would just start a campaign of that kind of thing, because people are so prone in that kind of way to listen to the people who they have elected, to listen to the people who talk to them about all kinds of different things. Let us start to produce our own food. We can produce food to the point where, I mean, we will barter, we will give people, exchange and so on. And we need to produce more so that we can bring down the price. Because if you go to the Rosso market, if you go to the supermarket, you cannot afford to buy what is available.
You
I
know,
don't know.
when I remember when I was in grammar school, I had participated in an essay competition because at the time the slogan was "Food for All" by the year 2000. You must remember that slogan, right?
Mhm.
Food
Yeah.
for All by the year 2000. We are 25, we are a quarter of a century past 2000, and we still, I don't even, I mean, probably in a worse position when it comes to feeding everybody. And I remember as a high schooler that I wrote an essay saying that the best way to contribute for Food for All is for the island to become self-sufficient. Um, because if you can produce your own food to begin with, after that you can look to now give food to other people. And what I'm hearing you say is the same thing, that we need to go back to that type of perspective, that type of mentality where as a first step we feed ourselves, we make ourselves self-sufficient for food. So a man can mess with you and he can take away your ability to go to a show, go to a fete, go to a lot. But if you're feeding yourself, there's a limit as to how much he can manipulate you, because you don't depend on him for food for you and your family. And so I like that as a very first practical um, suggestion, because Dominica has the land for sure. We have fertile land. We have enough rain, and we have enough expertise and know-how that is not going to be just primitive subsistence agriculture. We have enough people like you and a lot of agricultural engineers and a lot of folks who have just natural experience in growing food. But as you said, if we could get a movement where we match with the diaspora, it could turn it around where we don't import so much chicken anymore. We grow our own chicken, we produce our own eggs, we have our own beef, we have our own, healthy food. We may have another Dominica coconut products. It may not be coconut products, it could be some other type of industry that gives jobs and so on. But we start with trying to feed ourselves. I really think that that is a great idea. Um, as Africans, we are close to the ground, and therefore I think that's a good place to start in terms of turning around the plight of our people as Africans. Let us look to feed ourselves. That's what I am hearing you say. I didn't take a commercial break tonight because what we were talking about was so interesting. I usually have, so I hope my sponsors are not too upset with me. You know, but that's how much I enjoyed the conversation tonight. That I skipped the commercial break that we usually have at 8:30, and so I'm going to invite you to just make some closing remarks as we bring this conversation to a close. Um, I think if you will indulge me, we can come back and maybe have a program just on Haiti, because just from what you shared with us tonight is so enlightening, and there's so many folks who probably hearing those things for the first time, because as one of the audience says, every day you turn on the TV in the American press is making a point to emphasize that Haiti is controlled by street gangs, setting up the mentality of the American people that when they see troops on the ground in Haiti, oh, we're going to help them because there's so much violence, and they make the point to say that it's controlled by gangs. Um, Before that, they couldn't, you could say Haiti is the first name and the last name, the poorest country in this hemisphere. They couldn't say Haiti without repeating that. And so I would definitely want to invite you back. So maybe we can do a complete show on Haiti and spend some time fleshing out the history and the more recent developments. A lot of the American companies that have sweatshops in Haiti, paying them, almost nothing, not even survival wages, and so on. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to say some last remarks before we close.
Well, thank you very much for the show, for inviting me. I usually, when entering into new realms like that, I am nervous, but at the same time, you've made me feel quite comfortable on your program, and I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
But I also want to say that, you know, we need to be organizing ourselves, because the kind of life that is approaching us, right now, the World Health Organization is planning a pandemic treaty that they're going to approve sometime in June. But that World Health Organization and their pandemic treaty will take away the sovereignty of every country in the world. And if they decide tomorrow that the cold that you have or the sore eyes that you have is a pandemic, there is no way that nobody can say anything about it. and they can, all the things that they did, the curfews, the mask, the lockdowns at your home and so on, and distancing everywhere. If you go Roseau today, you'll see lines all over the place, because those are lines that they mark to remind us that there was a COVID-19, that you had to stay 6 feet away from another person and so on. But what we are saying is these things are coming back. They already told us that there is a disease X. It doesn't have a name, but already they have a vaccine for disease X, and they're ready to apply them. So all of those things are happening, and our people looking like they will go directly into the lines of slaughterhouse the same way they did for COVID. And we need to just try our best to avoid our people doing this thing again. Those who made the mistake the first time, those who did not, we should not do that again. And we should organize ourselves. We should do more education work. I am willing anytime. Listen, I am game. The challenge is for you. If you feel you need me, call on me, we will talk. It's
I
not that
appreciate that. I
I do
appreciate that.
not proclaim to know anything more than any other person. I am sure there are people in Dominica who speak better than me, who read and understand and lecture better than me. Its only thing is that everybody is so afraid to speak nowadays that we have to just do the legwork while we're getting people to wake up. We need to wake up, like lever du bout Dominicain, because that is something that, we cannot continue to slumber and wait for the
And
next thing.
core, yeah.
Yeah, we everybody have a good time. I mean, I myself, I had my days of youth and so on, and I can't blame anybody for enjoying a good time. But there is too much work to be done by the same people. You know how much trouble that France is having in Africa because they don't want to leave? Well, Africans are telling them, France, go home. And France is doing everything with arms and war and killings of the heads of state in order for them to not go. So we must pay attention to those things. We are just between two French departments. France will not even allow independence for neither Martinique nor Guadeloupe. That is French colonialism in the Caribbean today in 2024. You have British colonialism in the Caribbean, in Montserrat, in the Turks and Caicos, in
Anguilla.
Anguilla. This is British flag flying there. You have Dutch colonialism in the Caribbean. But after all, the leaders of CARICOM are calling for the Caribbean as a zone of peace. But none of them is saying that we want an independent Caribbean without European colonialism. The time for colonialism has passed. 1960, the United Nations passed a resolution 1514 saying that all countries, irrespective of the size of their population or their economy, have a right to independence. And we still find people in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, maybe is the best last vestige of European colonialism. And we must stand up and put an end to that. I mean, this is a passionate thing for me,
No,
to
no, no. I
see
like the
that.
passion. But I also, it's not that I disagree with you. Is that I'm saying that when you look at the countries that are independent and the lackluster progress that well, we made a lot of progress in the first couple of decades, in the 60s and the 70s, even in the 80s to some extent. But for the last 20, 30 years, we've regressed. Um, it weakens our case to go to those islands and say you should come join us as independent. They will look at Dominic and say, "What? My village is going to be like Wesley, where I don't have a choice, or whatever happened in Antigua, or." But that's not to say that we shouldn't reject colonialism. Colonialism is evil. I'm just saying that when we also have to look at what we can do to to be leaders on the globe, to demonstrate what Africans can do when we have full control of all of our resources. Because that is what the Caribbean has the potential to be nations that are run by Africans, and to show prosperity and to show progress and to show leadership. But we right now, we are being run by a bunch of they're not so young anymore. Maybe they came in when they were young, and they're just determined to just make the Caribbean a zone of fete, you know. Um, you know,
Now that you've said that, I must say it before I go that the biggest disease that is confronting us in the Caribbean, in Africa, in the world is corruption. Corrupt
corruption.
political leaders that feel that they can trick people, they have no accountability, they do, and it is up to the people. We have to do the education work, we have to do the political work, but we have to make our leaders accountable. And
Accountable.
we should rewrite, all of us should be rewriting our constitution. I mean, we got a constitution in 1978 that was handed down to us by Britain. And 45 years we celebrated last year. This year it is 46 years, and there has never been an
A
attempt to
comprehensive
amend the
yeah,
constitution
constitution.
so that the
Yeah.
people of Dominica, even the Caribbean, should contribute towards a constitution that gives them rights, that protects them against the tyranny of their
Hmm.
governments. So we
Hmm.
have
Hmm. Hmm.
government that is on top of our backs, and they are not afraid of law. They
Yeah,
control the
they're not afraid of
judiciary.
the people.
They know.
I heard you say that they had when they formed the Committee for National Salvation, there were 11 national organizations.
Yes.
I mean, in an environment like that, you have people who have avenues to voice their
Yeah.
opinions, and with the dismantling of so many institutions, we need to go back to that
You have
and
to build.
engage people in those organizations, those national organizations again.
And we have to encourage our young people, we have to encourage our women, we have to encourage our farmers, our workers, and so on there to organize themselves where they are,
Truck
because
drivers,
there
yeah.
is no other solution to what is happening to us there. There is too much complacency. I mean, for me, I am not. I am not hiding away from the fact that it is a very difficult thing, in the times
Hmm.
that we are living. But it has to be done.
Has
There
to
is
be
no
done.
other way.
But it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, I want to thank you. I've indulged on your time a little bit, and as you said, you gave me the right to invite you back. So I'm going to take you up on that. Certainly, because this is something that we need to do. From an education point of view, from a um, action point of view, I am very interested in your qualifications as a forest engineer and an environmental manager, because we know our forest was severely devastated by hurricanes, and we've not really done anything deliberate to restore it. So there's a lot I want you back on for, um, because I am hopeful that we are going to turn around the fortunes of our island. And when we do it, we want to do it with people who have education and the knowledge. And so folks like you who have that expertise and that technical training, we have to find a way to get into your head and to download it into the heads and into the records of our people so that it's available. So I'm going to give you, a couple of minutes. Let's wrap it up, and we'll
Yeah.
see you next time you come back.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I just wanted to tell you, I appreciate your own disposition as a conscious man, because we have a lot of people doing radio, doing thing, interviewing people and so on there, but their level of consciousness of their blackness and being bold enough to say it without really being afraid that somebody hearing and will tell them something or something. Anyway, I'm saying that I like your vibe. You know
Thank
the
you.
scene,
I
and you
appreciate you for
express
saying that.
yourself,
Thank you.
and it's not common. And keep up that good work, and just let me know when you need me. It's I'm committed already to doing that.
Definitely. And Haiti is in the news right now, so I'll want you back soon. So
Yeah,
we can give people a little additional information that they can use to interpret what they hear on the popular media and on the
absolutely.
news. So it will be soon. So I want to tell you thank you so much for your time and for the generous nature in which you share the information that you have. And I wish you all the best. It's great to see you. And all the best to you and your family.
Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you so much. All right. So folks, there you have it. the conversations that we have on this weekend interview is so different. We talk about Africans and people of African descent and victims of slavery and the slave trade, but we with the knowledge of Mr. Pascal, we're able to break it down, I think, into today, what's happening today in the present, and what can happen into the future. And I think that is so important because the only thing that's important is the present. The past is past, you can do nothing about it. The future is imagination, because it's not here as yet. But at the same time, if we can paint a vision of the future, it can help inform what we do now. And so that is what we're trying to do, is to really give you information, give you ideas that you can put with yours, and all of us together can imagine a desirable future and break it back down to what actions we can take today. So, for example, what can we do today? We can set a goal to see, say, by the time Dominica celebrates its 50th anniversary, that Dominica is self sufficient in food, or a net positive producer of food where we can export food. That would be a magnificent goal. And if we say that is what we want to do, it can inform what we do now. So we can say, okay, the only time people come to us is the GoFundMe because somebody is sick and they need to get airlifted for medical attention. What about a mechanism where we can contribute? And it doesn't have to be money, it can be gardening tools, it can be books, it can be whatever it is, but with a goal to say, okay, by year 50th independence anniversary, Dominica needs to be self-sufficient in food. So we can just start getting some information. How much eggs do we import? How much chicken do we import? I see they import carrots and they import lettuce and they import cucumbers. You know, really get those numbers down and say, okay, so if we import 5 tons of chicken a month, how much chicken is that? How many farmers do we need to produce 5 tons of chicken? Who is trained in how do you take care of chicken so that we can raise them in a healthy way, and a farmer can be successful and profitable. So that imagination of the future of our country, of our people, should inform our engagement. And so I want to say one more time thank you to Mr. Pascal for getting us into that mode of thinking. um, and let us see if we can do something about it while we focus on improving the quality of life of our people, and raising the image and the self-esteem of our people even among us. And so good night, folks. um, I want to say thank you to the team for putting this program together. Without them, programs might be boring. And if you were affected by the incident of the bridge that happened in Baltimore, I hope you've worked your way around now. And of course, we wish you a wonderful remainder of your week. It is Holy Week, so if that's your thing, um, I wish you a solemn, I guess, Holy Week and a wonderful Easter. When you go to the beach and you do Easter Sunday, Easter Monday, please stay safe. Um, Cut down on the speeding a little bit. Don't drink and drive. Um, be careful in the water. Don't, no drowning. Have a good time. And just, really resolve to doing something different once Easter is gone. Let's see if we can start identifying land where we can plant something, educating ourselves, and so on. So, good night, folks, and happy Easter.